Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Dadas Show, coming to you from Best Western Hotel, Upper Hill, here in Nairobi. I'm your host, Ashiko Mbune. Now, the Dadas Show aspires to promote a spirit of sisterhood amongst Kenyan women. And we do this by creating an open and a safe platform for women to be able to discuss issues pertaining to their lifestyle, their health, their relationships, their friendships, their work life, and everything that affects them in one way or another. Now, the loss of a child is profound. No parent is ready for the death of their child. And as it's always said, parents are supposed to outlive their children. Now, as cruel and as sad and as abnormal as that may seem, parents, relatives, and friends are being left devastated. They are grieving the hopes and the aspirations that they had for this child. They are grieving the loss of potential that they had. And of course, they are grieving the experiences that they will never get to share with this child. Such is the story that, such is the heartbreaking story that my panelists have had to endure. And today, we as Dadas Show, we are checking in. We are checking in on parents who have lost a loved one, and we are also celebrating the life that was lived by these young ones. We are also going to get an opportunity to speak to a professional, a skilled professional, who will tell us how you, how me, how the co-workers, how neighbors, how relatives can be able to better support the bereaved. As always, we welcome you at home to share with us your opinion on this topic and any other that we have been able to air before. We welcome feedback, we welcome questions, and we welcome any queries that you may have. So kindly please reach us on all our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1. You can also reach me directly on my social media platforms at Ashiko the host. Now, before we jump into today's discussion, let's take a look at the following feature.
The death of a child any age is a profound, difficult, and painful experience. While bereavement is stressful whenever it occurs, studies continue to provide evidence that the greatest stress, and often the most enduring one, occurs for parents who experience the death of a child. The few studies that have compared responses to different types of losses have found that the loss of a child is followed by a more intense grief than the death of a spouse or a parent. Recent findings suggest that parents of children who die from any cause are more likely to suffer symptoms of traumatic stress and experience more severe problems with emotional dysregulation than occurs with the death of a spouse. Integrating the loss of a child into the life narrative, making sense and new meanings of such a wrenching event, presents a challenge to parents and family. Children are expected to live to adulthood. Conflicting with the current life cycle expectations, the death of a child may be experienced as the death of the parent's future dreams, as well as creating a profound change in their present roles and functioning.
Welcome back. So joining me, as we mentioned, on our discussion today is Beatrice Eche. Karibu sana, Beatrice.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for making time to come and sit with us today. And next we have Mary Gabriel Nadenge. Asante sana for joining us today. And finally, we have Lucy Kangede, who is a counseling psychologist. I'd also like to acknowledge my wonderful audience who take time each week to sit with us as we discuss contentious issues that affect women of Kenya. And of course, you understand, the women are the backbone of society. Now, today's discussion is not one that is easy. But I'm sure in my heart of heart that there are people who are watching today who are going to get inspired, they're going to get some strength. You may not know it, you may not see it, but there's somebody's life that you're definitely going to change today. So Beatrice, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and, introduce us to your wonderful son.
I'm Beatrice Achieng. I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher at Thika School for the Blind. Basically, I'm just me. I'm a smiling person. I'm a happy person. And I had 5 children. Okay, I usually get confused there whether to say I have 5 children or I had 5 children, now I have 4. Yeah. Sometimes it's an issue for me. But I had 5. And the firstborn was Casey Franklin Otiende, so he's the one who passed on. Yeah, he passed on in October 2018. Yeah. Yeah, so he died. I had KC in 1995, May. Yeah, when I gave birth to him, he was quite a cute baby. He was very cute, by the way. I know all children are cute to their moms, but actually my son was cute.
Was the cutest.
Yeah, he was super.
Yeah.
So at first I didn't notice anything. He was just a bubbly baby, normal. Though he used to cry a lot. He used to really, really cry a lot. I was very young. I was 18. So basically, I didn't even know why he used to cry so much. But maybe the pains had started by then. So at 4 months, there's a time he just got very sick and very pale. Okay, since I was 18 and I was already living with the dad, I moved out of our house, I went to live with the dad. We basically didn't know what was wrong with him. He was crying as usual, but he just looked sick. So I took him to the clinic, to a nearby clinic. When I reached the clinic, the nurses just told me, no, move to. We used to live in Mumias then. There's a missionary hospital there. Rushed to the missionary hospital. So when we reached there, the nurses, you know, some nurses, those days, I was like, mama, unakaa na mtoto paka anakuwa white hivi. Ulikuwa unafikiria anakuwa mzungu. So I was like, what are these people talking about? Yeah. I mean, I couldn't get anything. So they tried to get blood to test his blood group because apparently he was anemic. They couldn't get any blood to get his blood group and they gave up. But there was a doctor who was passing by. I don't know, he just liked me or he just decided to step in. He took my baby and tried to get blood from his foot now. He got a drop and he rushed with the drop to the lab, got the blood group, came back and fixed the transfusion. And my son came back. He was actually almost just gone like that at that point. So that is when, okay, he was transfused, we went back home. Then after 2 months, his hands started swelling. So I went back to the hospital. That is when the same doctor, I went to the same doctor, he was Dr. Nyaga. He asked me to do a test. That's when we realized he had sickle cell anemia. So my journey with KC and sickle cell anemia started right then. By the time he was 1, he had started walking. Then again, the hands started swelling kabisa again. So we went back to the hospital. We were hospitalized there. For a long time, it's not a good condition, it's a bad one. Because like when the hands are swollen like that, the bones are infected. So you have to go for surgery because a part of the bone has to be scraped out. Yeah. So he had about 6 or 7 surgeries. So his hands were kind of deformed because of the surgeries. Without the surgeries, he used to emit a lot of pus. So he had to do the surgeries. He had to keep on going through them. So after the surgeries, his hands were deformed kinda. He couldn't use them very well. Then he got better. We went back home. There were happy moments when he was just a happy baby. Yeah. Then there were moments when he was just in pain. But he was such a bubbly boy. He would smile on. So we went in and out of hospitals. Sometimes we'd stay for 2 years, sometimes 1 year, sometimes months. So his school life was just like that, on and off. And he had very rare moments outside playing with others. He had very rare moments like that. So mostly he would just be indoors. Then when he turned 12 or 13, I think, I bumped into his diary. He had a diary. I don't know, I read it. And it was so heartbreaking. Out of my 5, by the time he was 12, 13, I already had 5 kids. Out of my 5 kids, he was the only one with sickle cell. So he was lamenting about his condition, his status, why just him, you know? Then he continued like that. At some point, he would ask me about his story, his life. I told him about the way Dr. Nyaga saved him. Then in his diary, so he wrote he was cursing that doctor who saved him when he was still a baby. But on the other hand, we had so many happy moments. He was a poet. Just coming into that house and meeting his smile. Then at some point, I started drinking. And Casey, by the way, he rarely slept. He would always be the one to open the door for me and ask me, have you eaten? You know, like, he was a baby and also, like, he was trying to parent and
adults, yeah, and console you and tell you, how are you? And
yes. We used to write poems together. Then he used to sing. Then he used to compose songs for me. Yeah, he would sing for me, and he would just, whenever he was well enough, he would just take care of everybody else in the house. He'd protect his brother.
he felt it deep within him that he has responsibility to take care of mom and dad and the kids.
And then he used to teach me how to dance. Those were some of the happy moments we had. And there was this time on my birthday, I think he had turned 18 or 19 or something of the sort. He bought me a cute handbag. Oh. And it was the cutest moment on earth. And then he used to love spending time with me. And you know, once you're an adult, there's so much with you. So sometimes I used to push him away. Mwambia sawa Casey na wewe. Utakana wenzako sangapi. Hebu nitoke kwa bedroom, you know. So, you know, once he's gone, you think of those times you wish you had never pushed him away from them.
No way of knowing. Tell me about maybe the final, the final days.
His final year, 2018, he changed. He stopped. Okay, he used to be grumpy also. As much as he used to smile, he used to be grumpy also. He changed completely. He stopped being grumpy. He stopped being sick, sana. He used to talk to me more. Yeah. So, like in 2018, and this is kind of really, really private. Yeah. He was at MMU, multimedia. Yeah. So he insisted that I had to buy him a MacBook, and I did. And he used to stay in Rongai sometimes for some because of school. Yeah. So I bought him the MacBook. Then one weekend he comes home and tells me he was robbed. So everything was stolen, plus the MacBook and all that. I was so mad at him, but because he was robbed anyway, there's nothing else I could do. I just accepted. Yeah. So I traveled home in August. As I traveled home, somebody from church called me and told me he's with my son. So, and my son really, really needs to tell me something. So I was like, what? So he had actually confessed that the MacBook wasn't stolen. He had tried to sell it through Jumia, one of those. Yes. So he went with it to town, and then the person who was buying told him to get into a car, took the MacBook, and threw him out. And you know, he was kind of tiny. With sickle cell, you don't most children with sickle cell, they don't grow normally, they don't develop normally. So apart from his hands being deformed, he was also crippled. Yeah. His leg was also deformed. Yeah. So I was wondering, what kind of person can do that? Who does that? So they took the MacBook and threw him out of the car. And he said he couldn't keep lying to me. I mean, he just felt he wanted to confess. I told him I forgave him and understood. And then those last moments, he refused to use his phone. So when, a day prior to the day he died, I was with him in the hospital and we were just talking. So he confessed about using drugs. He confessed that he was having that crisis because he had not had a crisis for a very long time. So this one caught us by surprise. He was 23 by then, and usually, okay, there's the myth with sickle cell that once you get to 23, you will live on, or 22, so you passed 22. Usually, there's a myth that they die before 22. Once you get to 23, you're safe. So we thought, for about a year, I had not seen a crisis. He was just okay. So he told me, Mom, I suspect I'm having a crisis because somebody gave me weed and I used it. So I think that's why I'm having a crisis. He was telling me that in the hospital. Then he also told me about, I asked him why he never wants to use his phone anymore. He said he just didn't want to link up with his friends or anybody else because he had realized that life is short and life is not all about friends but family. So he was just saying that he was just comfortable being in the house and not linking up or hooking up with anyone else. Then he also talked about, death. He said he doesn't see why people get buried. Mtoto achomwe na atupwe kwa maji akufe. We talked a lot that night. So I was with him in the hospital until around 8. Then sometimes I would spend the night with him, but that night he told me, go home and take care of my siblings. So I went back home. So the next day, I didn't go to the hospital early in the morning because I had to sort insurance issues. Yeah. So I went to the hospital at around noon. I found him there and he asked me to go buy him a cold glass of juice. So I went to buy the cold glass of juice. When I came back, the bed was wet and he was like asleep. I used to be a very harsh, I think maybe, I don't know, I used to be very harsh to my children. So even him, like I'll tell him sometimes akilia sana with the pain. Ambia KC, you're not the only sick person. You should try and be tough, toughen up, man up, come on. You see? So I assumed he had soiled the bed. Yeah. I was like, KC, you couldn't wait for me for even just 5 minutes. Nikupatie poti. You had to mess the bed. Then when I looked at him, he was foaming also. I tried to call him, he didn't reply, he didn't answer, he was just there. So that's when I started screaming and the nurses were there and since I had the bottle of juice, the nurses insisted that I had suffocated him.
What?
Yes. I just stood there, they tried to resuscitate him, he went to ICU. And that's how he went.
And that's how he went.
Yep.
Once again, I fail to find words. And if you hear Shiko doesn't have words, then you know there's a crisis. I fail to find words. And I think even my audience and even people at home, to understand, to even be able to resonate with what you're going through. But all in all, what you have done right here, sharing and connecting and reconnecting with Casey about the good moments and the sad moments and all the way till now where you are. There is somebody at home who cannot even be able to talk about their child who has passed on. And they've said, if this lady can come and sit here on national TV nonetheless, and talk about her son, talk about his struggles. You know, and the thing that I love about it is you have not sugarcoated any of the incidences. You know, you have mentioned that, yes, there was a time, you know, he wanted to sell the laptop because you relate to the fact that he was human. And it even makes it more beautiful. And I think the memory, because people have a tendency of gratifying death. You know, the counselor will tell me if I'm saying, and they think there's a song that used to sing when people are being buried, and they'll come with all the stories and they'll say, oh, you know what? You know, God forbid, Ashiko was very fit. She used to run 10 kilometers a day. You know, she used to have a flat tummy. But now we can be able to connect. We can connect with Casey Amaze. We can connect with Casey as a human being. And that makes all the more, you know, that makes his memory all the more important. And that will live on with, I think, everybody who's watching at home, and definitely everybody. And may Casey continue to rest in peace. Now, Mary, you know, you're also a teacher. I'm blessed to be joined by educators. And I can only imagine you lose your child and you have to take care of other people's children. Share with us, just like Beatrice did about your lovely son.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. As you said, my name is Mary Gabriel. I'm a mother of 3. I'm also a teacher, an educator by profession. I teach at St. Austin's Academy in Lavington, teaching global perspectives and sociology. Majorly sociology will talk about behavior, and society.
Yes.
And I've tried to use that to help me to move forward. But a few things can never be cured because no medicine has been known to cure emotions. Yeah. Well, I had 3 children, as she said, as I told you earlier. We got married early. I got married quite early. I had Leon at 21, Leon Kulo. That was my first child. I have a second one, Ivan Katimi, who just like a graduate of Multimedia University now, doing his internship with the Public Service Commission. My third child, Angel, is a third-year university at KCA. I'm proud that I still have those 2. Well, Leon was born on the 18th of December 1993. He was a beautiful child, like every mother will say. Yeah. The father and I, our parents worked for Mumia's Sugar Company. Now that will tell you why me and Beatrice are here together. Yeah. Yeah. Our parents worked together. His early life was good. Leon went to, I was teaching, I left the military soon after because I realized I needed to take care of him. I went back into active teaching and I got teaching in McKinney schools here on Gong Road, where I also registered him, and that's where he went to primary school. He was an active child. He was a scout. He was in Scouts movement. He did sports and was very good in athletics. He was active like overall, and didn't have any issues with study. He excelled at his exams, did very well at class 8, moved on into high school. He went through high school, he got good grades. Well, I had to move him from one school to another because, of course, a few things changed and we just needed to make those amendments to make it comfortable for him to do well in school. I noticed that when he was like in his 3rd year of high school and 4th year of high school, he would constantly complain about congestion, which of course we would treat like normal cold, take him to hospital, and that's it. He cleared school in 2012, did his 4th form, passed very well, got his grades to go to university. That was in the November of 2012. When he came home, and of course there's that break between high school and university. Yeah. The year after, I noticed that he was kind of losing weight. He actually went down up to like 45 kilograms for a boy of about 18, 19. That was really not good. Then, of course, he started complaining about stuffiness, and he started complaining about pain, and he started complaining about insomnia. And one thing led to another until at one point we realized that he was actually like not able to breathe really well because he had like some congestion either in his nose or just around his throat. Leon was misdiagnosed for you know, like congestion, and they will talk about everything else about his nasal congestion, and you know, like it was just an ENT problem. Yeah. He basically went to all the top hospitals that anybody would think of, and if you really wanted to help your child, you know, because he had a full medical cover. So that was like between March of 2013, April, May, June, you know, it was just like in and out of all these hospitals with hopes that something would happen, with hopes that some diagnosis was going to be gotten, but nothing came through. So when it came to September of the year 2013, we decided that we needed to, you know, have a second opinion, and we decided that we should take him to India. So we looked around, we got a doctor in India, in Mumbai. Texas Cancer Center in Mumbai. That is where we had Leon admitted in September of the year 2013. So the father traveled with him. I stayed around for 1 month. In October, when we went on the half-term break, I went to India to relieve the dad so the father can come back. So it's only after we got to India in Mumbai at Texas Cancer Center that Leon was diagnosed with lymphoma of the T cells. It's a kind of blood cancer that is actually curable if it's detected early. And it was already at stage 4. So there was really very little that could be done at that point in time. The thing about him being in India at that point is the doctors were able to manage the pain. Yeah, because he was really in pain when he was here. He was put on treatment. Initially it was oral treatment. It was very, very expensive being out there. I had to sell my car at that point in time to raise a little money to sustain Leon in hospital in Mumbai. There's no one single day that I woke up and that it ever occurred to me that Leon would pass on. I kept my spirit very high. I was so hopeful. I had so much faith in the doctors in Mumbai. They were really good at what they do, and it was very different being out there in hospital with him. So they tried to get him to through chemo, but he just couldn't even manage the first cycle of it. Yeah, it was too far gone. In November of 2013, the first week of November was really bad for Leon. He was in pain. He was in ICU. I couldn't be with him. I just had to visit him occasionally, and of course there was the danger of him getting infection, so they never allowed me to see him as much as I really wanted to see him. So I was basically in the room or just hanging around or praying. A lot of times I would be in prayer. So from like about the 3rd of November, he was in ICU. Moved from I think we were on the 3rd floor, he was brought to the 1st floor of Texas Cancer Center, and he was on the 1st bed in the 1st ward. So I went through fasting and prayer. The whole time I was in ICU, and I was really like tired and fatigued emotionally. On the morning of the 11th of November, I came downstairs from our room, and I talked to the head nurse, and I told her, I'm feeling so tired. I want to leave the hospital for a while. I want to go out there and maybe get a cup of chai, because, you know, it's like I wasn't getting answers. Nobody was telling me what was happening. I was in prayer and fasting. So I decided to break my fast and go out there to take a cup of chai. It was nice because, of course, I met people there and we got chatting, and I finished my cup of tea and got back to the hospital. Actually, I didn't finish my cup of tea. I got a call from Dr. Ibrahim, who was his caretaker at that time, and he said, "Where are you? Are you around the hospital? Can you come over?" And I said, "Yeah, I am around. I can come over." So I walked to the hospital and I found him there on the 1st floor, and he said, Leon's heart just stopped. So I didn't understand what he was talking about. I didn't contemplate what he was talking about, and I said, have you tried resuscitating him? I mean, what have you done to try and make it, get it working again. What's the problem? And he didn't talk to me. He left me in the room and he walked away. And just at that point in time, I know I'm a master's holder in education. I'm read. I'm read, and it just didn't occur to me that the heart stopping means you are dead. I just didn't see that, you know. Then when he walked away and didn't talk to me, I suddenly realized that, my God, my boy might be gone. And I looked at him and I touched him, and he looked a little more taller than he usually is, and he was cold, his feet were cold, and I just didn't know what to do. I was alone in Mumbai. My whole family was here. I had to try and call my husband at that time and tell him, oh, this is not. We had even run out of money, and I think he was at the bank trying to secure a loan. That was on the 11th of November, 2013. Yeah.
What's very interesting is how you remember every single detail about that day, because that's a day that changed your life. It's a day that changed your husband's life. You remember you didn't have the tea. You didn't remember. There's a lot of emotions. The emotions over here from the audience, from the everything is palpable. But we are here for you. And again, I'm in awe of the fact that you're here and you're sharing something that has to be the most difficult thing. Now, before we go on break, tell us a little bit, just briefly, tell us about the stages of grief, and then we are going to take a short break after that.
It is a very, very profound thing that can happen to any parent. We empathize with you, and like Ashiko, you've put it, when such a thing happens, it blows your mind up at the onset, and the next thing that sets in is the emotional reaction, emotional response of the body towards what has happened. And you immediately enter into an experience of grief. There are some people who may experience even grief before, especially, for example, even in their cases, what we call anticipatory grief. When somebody has been so ill, and you see the way you're going, and you're already grieving for how they are suffering, how they are going to end, although every parent hopes for the best. Especially when you have a child who is unwell, you always feel, and especially if you are Christian, and you're praying like Mary is telling us about prayer and fasting, you put your hope there. You feel things are going to be better. Things are going to be okay. But actually, things turn out that they did not get better. And that is where now the emotions start coming in, where you have lost somebody, the first thing is denying. We have those 5 stages of grief. You start denying, like Mary is saying, she's learned, she's educated, but she's seeing her son there, she cannot even comprehend. No, it can't happen. How now? And she was so hopeful that it was going to be better. So that is, you deny, you get numb. And that is the body's way, like you're putting it, the body's way of protecting you. So it has a way of trying to survive. And one of the way of trying to survive is numb you, so that you don't feel the grief to the real extent that you would be feeling. That is now when you start denying, you feel, no, it didn't happen, no, it's not like that. You start even trying to wake them up, you know. Then there's the other one, after denial, you're angry. Yeah. You're angry at the things that have happened. I prayed, you're even angry to God. I was praying, I was fasting. God, what happened? You see, you're angry at yourself. Is there something that I could have done that I did not do? And then also, other people, how did other people react? Yeah. Did they help me? You're angry at them. After the anger, now you get to another one, of where now you start bargaining and thinking, even feeling guilty about it. If I was a better mother, maybe I was not a better mother. You know, you're trying to bargain with God. And then eventually it gets to where you start feeling depressed. You start feeling now you don't even want to associate with people. You want to be, the things that were so interesting for you are not interesting for you anymore. Starting feeling helpless and hopeless. That is how now this, depression starts coming in. And then after that, it gets to a point where you feel like now you can accept what is happening. And accepting does not mean that it's okay what happened. What it means is that you will be okay. Things have happened. It is not okay what has happened, but eventually I will be okay. For a child, actually, what we say is that grieving never ends. It never ends. Because it will get a point where you start thinking, especially now you see maybe the age mates, you see now they are celebrating their milestones. When they are celebrating their milestones, you will feel, my child will be this age. And you will go back right there. So even when we talk about the stages of grief, they don't come like in a sequence. One day you're feeling okay, another time you're feeling angry, another time you're feeling depressed, and just does not end like that. When you're celebrating the birthdays, you're back to square one. So it never really goes. And then also that serious grief, it eases with time, but that serious grief can take a long time compared even to when you're grieving other people, when it is for a child. Actually, research says grieving can take a period of maybe 12 to 18 months. That's serious grieving. But for a child, it can take as much as 4 years. So you see somebody is not able to move on, and you wonder, it's such a long time, what is the problem? But that is how long it can take.
Thank you so much, Councillor Lucy. You have really opened our eyes, because even as you're talking about the stages of grief, and I hope that everybody, even at home, are taking note, as our conversation that we were having, the conversation with both Mary and Beatrice, I am able to note certain things from how they speak. And I feel like the moment we have some form of knowledge about how this happens, then you can be able to relate. If I'm talking to Beatrice today and she's feeling some type of way, and I'm feeling like she's talking in a certain way, I'll know that maybe this is where she's at today. If I'm talking to Mary Gabriel and she's talking in a certain way, or she's behaving in a certain way, or she's not reaching out, I'll know that this is where she is. And I can be able to act accordingly. So once again, remember, the show is so that we can be able, because what has happened has happened. Now, how can we form an effective support system? We're going to take a short break right now. We'll be back with our question and answer, feedback, comments, words of encouragement session. Don't go far away.
Can say as well, just pray. I believe all solution is in God, even in hard times, because God himself in the Bible says that in all situations we should give him thanks. Because you see now this child, he or she is dead and we cannot do anything like to return them back, right? But we still need to be rooted in God, because he's the giver and he's the taker. Whichever way that child died, God is the giver and the taker, and he's the one who takes control. So it should never be a moment of, discouragement or drawing someone away from their faith. So just have faith. Thank God for the time you had with that child from birth until that time when that child died. There's someone who never got the opportunity of raising that child. There's someone who has never gotten pregnant and has been craving for that pregnancy. So in everything, we just thank God and just keep on praying.
Let the parent who has lost such a child go for counseling. That should be the first thing. Because even though we say as a community we go and talk to the parent, we have not solved the issue. we've just comforted the parent for a short while, and then we still leave the problem at that age, at that time. So what we can do is let counseling be the first remedy for such a case.
Welcome back to the second part of our episode today. And today we are dealing with something that's completely heartbreaking, which is coping with the loss of a child. So before the break, we had an opportunity to interact with Beatrice and Mary Gabriel. And of course, our counselor also gave us some very, very valuable information. So if you know, tell us where you're watching us from, tell us what you think of this show. Give us your opinion. Are you going through something similar? Has what they have done or said today have been of benefit to you? So reach us on all our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1. You can also reach me directly at Ashiko, the host. I look forward to hearing from you. So starting us off in this question and answer stroke comment and encouragement session, we have Sue.
I'd like to commend Beatrice and Mary Gabriel for being able to talk to us, to share these experiences. In fact, I realized for Mary, it's actually exactly 10 years. And I'm sure it's been a journey. Now, for the two of you, I've been wondering, because when you're going through what you're going through, sometimes the people around you may not or don't seem to understand what you're going through. I've had comments like, ulipoteza mtoto, usijali utapata mwengine, ama uko na wengine. But these comments don't come from a place of hate. I think it's a place of ignorance and trying to look for what to tell someone or how to comfort someone. And the words, they don't come easily. What would you like people around you and other people who may be having grieving loved ones around them, what would you like people to consider? What would you like to hear, to be told, or how would you like us to say it?
That's an excellent question, Sue. Because I know maybe many people are realizing today after our counselor has mentioned about the different stages of grief. So, just what she's asking, do you actually feel people are aware of what you're going through? Do you feel like, what have your experiences been?
Losing a child is like losing a part of you. It's like, it changes you completely. Because I'd say for me, I changed completely. I think for the first 1 year, 2 years, I was off social media completely. I just didn't want, because anytime I'd go to Facebook and see somebody celebrating their child, I'd feel they're mocking me. And after that, now I started posting about my son, or like on his birthday, and some people would be like, come on, Beatrice, let Casey rest. It's not like I'm not letting him rest. When I talk about him on social media, or when I pour out my grief, or when I cry, it's not that I'm not letting him rest. God knows I'd love for him to be in a good place, and I'd love to know if he's okay, if somebody is giving him his drugs. I mean, whether he needs them or not, I don't know. But giving comments like, let so-and-so rest, like you're asking me to forget a part of me. Yeah. How can I forget my hand? Yeah. I think the best thing you do for somebody who's grieving a child or somebody who's grieving generally, people are different. People grieve differently. Let somebody grieve vilanataka. Don't throw comments, because actually you don't know. You've not been there. Even if you've been there on your own kind of grief. If you were coming to console me or condole with me, allow me grieve the way I know how to grieve. I mean, just encourage me and support me.
You see, this is something that actually, you can see how charged she is, meaning that as we are going out there making comments, thinking that we're, like Sue said, some of the comments sometimes don't come from a place of malice, but they come from a place of ignorance. So I think that is the high time to practice emotional intelligence and think to myself, what is my comment? Is my comment subjective? Is it objective? Is it going to add value to this particular situation or make it worse? What about you, Mary Gabriel?
My brother died in the year 1999. And from the year 1999, my mother grieved for such a long time. I kept looking at her and I thought, at one point I talked to her and I said, Mom, you have the three of us. Why do you keep crying over Jemo, who is now dead. I never understood that until after I lost Leon. And this week on Saturday will be his 10th memorial, and I still cry. Life is full of triggers. Every small sin that you went through with him, every moment, words, places you are with him, activities you participated in together, the people you met, all those are triggers in life, you know. Sometimes you meet somebody, like I remember one time I was on public transport and I was in town and I met a young man who looked so much like him. And I followed him around town, not because I wanted to talk to him, but just to see him. And I can't tell you why. So there are many triggers in life, and people just need to be conscious about it. You know, without saying anything, we will really appreciate. I really want to appreciate my colleagues. I am a teacher at St. Austin's Academy, and I have gotten a lot of support from where I work. Starting with the principal, Mr. Simba, all the teachers. They know that November is not a good month for me. It's a trigger. And I really, really want to appreciate, because everybody really looks out for me, and there's a lot of support. My family, my sister, Christine especially, my cousin Hilda, they all really look out for me, especially during this month. So we actually post those comments, not because we know what people are going through, but because we actually do not know what to say. And every time somebody tells me, be strong for your other children, I always feel like I want to be strong enough to punch your face.
Yes, so that is perfect. So you've had Catherine, I know Mary Gabriela said next time we throw it, she's going to punch your face. But I get that, and I get the gist of what they're saying. So, Councillor, what is the appropriate approach, to be honest?
Most of the people come from a point of, I want to help, I want to console you, but they don't know how. You've just heard Mary Gabriel, what she told her mother. She did not tell her mother that because she wanted the mother to feel bad. No, but she was trying to reach out to the mother to see if there's anything they can do about it. So most people actually don't even know how to deal with it. And what we recommend is that if somebody can just be there for that person. That person needs to feel they're not alone. That is the most important thing. You don't even have to say anything. I don't know why people think that when you go to console somebody who is grieving, you must tell them stories. You must talk. It's not like you must talk. And then you come up with things like, there's a reason for this, you know, and you're asking, what reason can there be for somebody to lose their child? There's no reason like that. So if you're going to console a person, I think it's better you just let them be. If they want to talk, let them take the lead. One time they may want to talk about the child and the loss and everything. Another time they may not even want to talk about that. They may want to talk about the topical issues. If they're talking about the topical issues, join in and talk about it. But let them be the ones who are taking the lead, not you. Then also remember that different personalities grieve differently. That is very important for people to know that different personalities grieve differently. And you might see somebody who is, you think they are not grieving, but they are internalizing things. And you think, this one, they are not even, they don't even feel anything. But they are. Everybody grieves. But let's understand that personalities grieve differently. And please give people space to grieve the best way they know how. And the way they are.
Thank you so much, Councillor. I think we are getting, more educated as we continue. So we'll move on to our next question or comment that is from Elfas.
Thank you, Ashiko. My name is Elfas Mzito, and my questions goes directly to Madam Mary Gabriel. How did you feel about the negligence of the people there at hospital?
Yeah, as I already said, Leon was in and out of hospital from March of 2013 up till September of the same year, when his condition was only diagnosed after we moved out of this country and we went to Mumbai, Texas Cancer Center to be specific. The doctors were not able to diagnose his problem. Instead, they were dealing with symptoms that were there, and we went through a lot of tests that were quite expensive. and it was very costly for the family. We ended up losing so much. We became very broke at the end of that year. The government needs to have a mechanism by which they can be able to, like control doctors who will constantly send for more tests, and there's nothing that comes out of that test, and still it is charged on you. You really didn't need that test. Why was it charged on you? And one of the doctors, and shamefully so, even called Leon on his personal line when we were in Mumbai to ask him to come for an appointment. So that was at a Nairobi hospital. Like, he would constantly say, oh, next week is your clinic on this day. Next week is, I have an appointment with you, so come in. And every time would be paying, and nothing came out of it. So I think that the doctors in this country can be very negligible, and you cannot be knowing it all in any profession. Even me as a teacher, I'm not knowing it all. That's why I have a department. That is why I should be able to consult. You really don't have to be that doctor who wants to have it all so that you can be able to get all the money. Consult with the other doctors, find out what else can be done, what tests can be able to help the patient because we are talking about a life here, and a young life that was lost because a lot of time was taken and no good diagnosis was given within the right time.
Our next question or comment comes from Sue.
Thank you, Ashiko. I'm Susan Mwaura. My comment goes to Mary and Beatrice. First, I'm so proud for both of you, how you decided to no longer make excuses. What you did is just getting up and strong. Every moment is a fresh beginning.
Thank you so much, Sue. That's very encouraging. And I'm sure even you at home would like to share words of encouragement to Beatrice and Mary Gabriel, of course, and any parent who is bereaved. It doesn't matter whether the child was young, whether the child was old. Now, there is, as far as I'm concerned, I think there is no correct way to grieve. And that means that there is no simple answer on how you should cope with the loss of a child. But as Madam Kang'ethe has already told us, there are certain things that we can put in place that can be able to assist, make life a little bit more bearable. We can go, it's a bit of self-care. What do you want to do? And one of the things that I find the most important is having a fantastic support system. Like what Mary Gabriel has talked about, her sister is there, the school is there. So if you are there as a neighbor, as a friend, as a relative, as a co-worker, and you know that somebody is struggling, kindly extend to them some compassion and understanding. Like she mentioned to us, we do not know what they're going through, and the most we can do is just be there. Just be there and let them know that they're seen and they're heard, and we are there for them. So remember, you can always share your thoughts, your opinions, words of encouragement, messages of condolences to our wonderful panel. We thank you so much for taking time to sit with us. I know the process has not been easy. We've had a very emotional period, but we have been able to accomplish what we set out to do. And I'm sure that this particular show is going to have a lot of impact. So on behalf of my location partner, Best Western Hotel, Upper Hill here in Nairobi, the production team at KBC, and myself, Ashiko Mbone, I wish you all a compassionate week. I'll see you same time, same place next week. Bye for now.